This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. I've got to cover this story for many, many reasons. Obviously, over the years, those of you who have listened to my work, even though I'm a new YouTuber, we all are under the same understanding that aliens don't actually exist. What do exist are demons. Demons in the form of what we call aliens. Now, what I'm going to show you is just the beginning of what we're going to start seeing to discredit this. I ask people out there all the time to just listen with an open mind, right? Because everybody out there who believes in aliens is just believing in stuff that they see in the movies. There's actually no literal evidence of an alien existing. Now, there is evidence of demons actually existing. There's evidence of demons being manifested out where Area 51 is by Aleister Crowley, by L. Ron Hubbard of Scientology fame, and Jack Parsons of NASA fame. So one of the first things you have to do is ask yourself, well, where does the whole depiction of an alien come from? And some people go, well, it's from Roswell. It's from, they released pictures of the aliens and then never told us about what the aliens actually look like. If you look and you study the occult, you will see that the entire image of what we look at as an alien or a gray comes directly from the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Now, for those of you that don't know Aleister Crowley, you better get to understand who he is, because this is who they worship. Okay, you might even remember Aleister Crowley being mentioned in the West Memphis 3 story. The kids signing blood contracts to Aleister Crowley. Well, Aleister Crowley is the man who referred to himself as the Great Beast, the Beast 666. That's what Aleister Crowley is known as. And Aleister Crowley's teachings are all the things that we see in today's society normalized, from yoga to all of the magical practices that these musicians practice. We've seen Aleister Crowley's face on the cover of even things like the Beatles albums. He is ingrained in the minds of all these Tavistock Institute occult puppets who we all know as celebrities, because that's what they are. So Aleister Crowley had written about Wam. Wam was the demon that he summoned. And he said in his teachings, the exact quote from Crowley was, "Today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else." And that, in fact, is aliens, which brings me to this story, which, again, this type of stuff is going to come out to desensitize people and deflect. Bible reading Pentagon commanders halted UFO research over fears aliens were demons. A major figure in the Pentagon's UFO research agency claims that fundamentalist Christians within the establishment blocked him because they thought UFOs came from hell. So they're going to sensationalize these types of stories, right? Nobody's ever claimed that UFOs come from hell. UFOs are created by the government. It's a flying saucer, something that the CIA has used for years and years and years. They do these things in the sky, not just with light shows. They have the type of technology very easily to create something that looks like a UFO. For anyone that doesn't think they do, you're out of your mind. Okay, so people out there get upset when I talk about this topic because they say, I've seen UFOs. No one's denying if you've seen some quote-unquote unidentified flying object that our government has sent out into the air to do test runs with. But the fact that people still believe in aliens is pretty amazing to me, with zero evidence of an alien. The same people who believe in aliens are the ones that yell and scream about Christians believing in a mythical figure. Like, they believe in something they don't see, even though God's evidence is all around us, hidden all around the earth. There are places that you can go where biblical things actually have occurred. They've hidden things like Sodom and Gomorrah. They've hidden things like the Ark, okay, Noah's Ark. They've hidden many, many things. So there is evidence of God's existence. They obviously can't accept this and grasp this. They believe that aliens are real based on just the fact that the movies have indoctrinated them over and over and over again with saying that there could be life out in space, and then having people like Obama, people in Hollywood constantly putting out propaganda about this. It's been beaten into their heads so much that they believe it. So we're going to see stories like this that try to deflect from the truth. That's exactly what this is. It makes people go, oh my gosh, these crazy Christians. So now aliens are demons. Demons and aliens have been the same thing the entire time. Okay, this is just the first time they're actually, that I can remember, them addressing this in the Pentagon, actually bringing this up. Because, again, this is something that they've kept hidden. But all these things, light is going to be shined on all these things. It's just a matter of how they spin it in the media, and if you fall under their deception, which is exactly what they're trying to do by making this story sound like some type of crazy Christian conspiracy. They'll never address Aleister Crowley. There's a few things that they don't address, right? When they address the trafficking stuff, They never address the basic core of it, which goes back to Aleister Crowley and his teachings, because they'll get caught red-handed. So they pretend like they don't worship Lucifer, which we all know, and they pretend like they're not in secret societies because they've taken an oath, and they pretend that Aleister Crowley doesn't even exist. They don't bring any attention to Aleister Crowley, even though they show him all the time, whether it's on album covers, on their shirts. Okay, all the time they show us this, but they just won't ever confess to it, because then people would connect the dots between all the rituals that we see being done out in the open and all the things that they've normalized with goats, etc. So UFO researchers claiming that Pentagon commanders are trying to put the brakes on extraterrestrial studies due to their Christian beliefs. Ron James, director of media relations for the UFO research group Muffin, has shared, I think it's pronounced Muffin, MUFON, has shared that U.S. government officials are concerned aliens might actually be demons in disguise. James said that the government-sanctioned advanced aerospace threat identification program faced opposition from a very large contingent of people within the Pentagon who believe the unidentified aerial phenomenon reported by U.S. military sources were potentially piloted by creatures from hell. James went on to share that Luis Elizondo, the head of the AATIP, struggled to get proper funding because of this group of individuals. So again, they're going to blame Christians. Idiots out there are going to hear this story and immediately laugh. They won't even think the two could possibly be connected in one way or the other, because they don't believe demons actually exist. Even though these are the same people who will line up every other week to see some new movie about demonic possession, right? Yet at the same time, they'll line up the week in between those to see the new movie that comes out every other week about alien invasions and actually believe that, because they've been told through fake science about going to the moon and going to Mars and all these planets that we're going to, and that there's life on these other planets. They've been completely indoctrinated by NASA, which is just hilarious to me, because NASA is nothing more than a front for laundering money. That's all NASA's ever been. But anybody out there that thinks they do more than that, you're kidding me, right? They fly these things up, and these things just go to the left or the right, and they're never seen again because they go land in the middle of the ocean, because that's what happens every single time. So back to the story at hand here. If you don't know that stuff about NASA, because I know people are stumbling upon my channel who are new to all this stuff, have no idea who I am, well, consider it divine intervention that you're here, because I'm continuing to do this to try and wake people up, even if I have to go back to the most basic fundamentals like NASA. It is imperative that people wake up. It is essential for them to survive here on Earth. If they don't know what's going on, they need to start preparing for what's going to go down. Okay? So let's go back to the story here. Think of the things psychologically that this does to people who hear it, right? So these people want answers about UFOs. Even truthers want answers. Because remember, just like there's truthers who believe in the left-right paradigm, there's truthers who think that government's been hiding this stuff, that aliens really exist, that they come from Mars, that space is real and all this. They still believe in those things as well. They don't realize that all of this stuff is biblical. Anyone who doesn't understand that this is biblical, that this is prophecy, that God has told us all these things, doesn't seem to understand. There are people out there that think, oh, well, they've made the Bible up and now they're just deceiving all these people out there. You know how many Christians don't understand the Bible and don't understand what's happening? The large majority. Okay, so they don't even pay attention to this stuff. They don't pay attention to prophecy. They don't pay attention to the wickedness of the world. They only pay attention to things that make them feel good every day. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not here to judge anybody and how they live and how they perceive things. I'm saying that they're not trolling us, because there's only a small percentage of us who are actually awake and aware of this stuff. And you become more awake and aware of a lot of the truths in the Bible when you study the enemy too, because you start seeing that, wow, God told us all this stuff, and all these prophecies about the things they were doing in darkness, the wicked deeds. People read that and they're like, oh, okay, wow, things must have been rough back then, or, wow, things were crazy. Now everything's like normal. Because why? Oh, because you're trapped in a matrix where your mind has continued to be manipulated over and over again, even to believe in things like aliens actually existing. You know how many Christians are duped into all of this stuff, the love movement? The fact that there's democratic Christians is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard in my life. But there are. I mean, we've seen that there's drags at the church now, at some of these churches. I mean, it's insanity what a lot of these Christians are interpreting scripture as, because they believe, they hear of God as love, God as mercy. So then they're accepting sin and they're pushing sin. They don't understand how mind control works, manipulation works, and what it's doing to their children. They think people are born a certain way. So they really don't have a grasp on reality, so to speak. It doesn't mean that they're not saved through their faith, but it means that a lot of them just don't have a clue of what's going on. And you might say, well, do they need to have a clue? Well, I don't know if God put us here to live in a fake utopian mindset where we aren't actually believing scripture as real, as literal, and to just go along with all the satanic agendas. To me, that's not, what I would think God would intend for us. So back to this story again. I keep going off track. I apologize. One of the things you're going to take from this is people are going to be angered at Christians because they're going to go, oh, these crazy Christians. Now they're in Congress. Because remember, it's going to be a buildup over and over again about Christians being bad, Christians being stupid, Christians pushing their beliefs and all these things. And they're going to say Christians need to stop. Christians need to be controlled. We need to get Christians out of Congress, et cetera, because they're mixing their beliefs with actual science, right? Now, this science that they claim is all make-believe. Okay, I mean, they've literally taken the most basic things in science, like what a man and a woman is, and they've told you that those things don't exist anymore. But then they take other sciences that they make up about what you need to put in your body, etc., and people actually believe in that. So it's just, like I've said a million times, it's an inverted world, and that all goes back to Aleister Crowley. Everything is inverted, right? Remember the law of reversals that Aleister Crowley teaches? Well, these are all things that we're seeing right in front of our faces, including the alien, quote-unquote, demon deception, which is what it really is. So this guy, James, went on to share, again, that Luis Elizondo, the head of the AATIP, like I said, struggled to get proper funding because of these Christians. So despite religious leaders, including Pope Francis, acknowledging that there is likely life on other planets, this group of officials are wary. In fact, those mentioned, Jones mentioned his conversation with Christian U.S. Congressman Tim Burchett. I sat down and interviewed him. His feeling was that if you look in the Bible and you look at Ezekiel building the wheel, there's a lot of people that think that that was a spaceship. Jones clarified on Julian Dorsey's podcast, he does not think aliens are demons, but simply beings from a different universe. So beings from a different universe would coincide with everything with CERN, with bringing and summoning these spirits over. People have to understand this stuff. People who are awake and they're like, oh yeah, they're all Satanists and witches. And then they believe that aliens are real, and they don't understand what all this is about with actual demons and summoning of demons. What they're trying to do is CERN, to tear open to lift the veil, so to speak, to bring over what's on the other side. That's what they're trying to do. Smashing, what do they call it? They're always like, we're trying to open a black hole. Oh yeah, why? Why are you trying to? Would anyone think that would be a good idea? And these idiots are just like, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Everyone just, let me get back to my phone. We're going to smash open particles together so we can open the black hole. I mean. It's really unbelievable. So obviously another thing that should be a telltale sign to anybody who's awake that aliens are actually demons is Pope Francis, right? So Pope Francis is telling you there's life on other planets. That's all you need to know, because Pope Francis is obviously at the hierarchy here of the New World Order. The Vatican, everybody knows, is the hierarchy, along with Bagelville, okay, and other secret society groups. A lot of people believe the Vatican's the highest up there. That's perfectly fine if you believe that. To me, it doesn't make a difference, because as long as you're keeping your finger on Bagelville, what's really where all this stuff resides and comes from, and who owns the land there, et cetera, which goes back to the Rothschilds. It goes back to the Balfour Declaration, which I covered over on the website Uprising Revival many times over. Can't talk about that anymore here on YouTube, of course. Of course not. About who actually owns the land and how the feds actually own it, because really the feds are owned by the Rothschilds. So the Rothschilds who deal directly with Satan, okay, for people out there that don't know how this stuff works. That's why they control the money system, et cetera, et cetera. So back to the story, we're going to hear more and more of these types of things as a way to deflect, because they can't continue to hide this. They could censor people like me all they want to. Now, the whole notion of aliens being demons is not one of those quote-unquote conspiracies, even though it's not a conspiracy. It's not something that's a very known thing. It's not a very popular thing. There's debates about the shape of the earth. There's debates about this. There's debates about the magic potion, even though that's not a debate at all and shouldn't be. You don't hear much about the alien deception other than people going, oh, well, maybe they did this, or maybe this could be going on with, the other planets and space. The whole thing's a deception. They are trying to normalize demons. If people knew that aliens were demons, they wouldn't accept them, right? And it would lead more people to pick up their Bible and find God and realize that it is spiritual, it is real. So they're deceiving people into thinking it's aliens, and the next thing you know, they're going to deceive people, which we see in the programming, that aliens are friendly things from another planet. What do you think all this is headed towards, with the accepting of this, accepting of that, now accepting of robots and technology, which have spirits summoned in them too? It's going to be the accepting of these spirits. Right? Well, if they told everybody flat out, hey, we're bringing demons over, we're going to summon demons, even people who weren't Christian be like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I've seen The Exorcist. That doesn't seem like a great idea. And that, even if that's the most basic concept that they have, something like that, they'd be on board and be like, I don't know about that. I don't like that. But if they tell us that aliens are arriving from Mars, oh, we all need to open our arms and be loving and love on them. Do you see where this is going? Because that's exactly where it's going. It's the accepting of demons, the accepting of demonic entities and spirits. Okay? This all is biblical. It's a spiritual war. So stories like this are going to become more prominent. This isn't the first that we're going to hear about, the Pentagon talking about, oh, UFO research has been halted because people in Congress believe that aliens are now demons. This is probably the first time that this has been admitted, or at least brought up. I haven't seen a story in my years and years of doing this, even though I'm a brand new YouTuber. I have not seen a story even prior to that about Congress ever bringing up the notion that aliens were demons, ever. Okay, I'm one of the only people, not one of the only people that talks about it. I know that there's probably others. I don't know of any, but I'm sure that there are, obviously, because I feel like God shines this on all of the people who are awake, all of his children, and other people probably do talk about it. So that's perfectly great. I mean, we need that message out there. But the fact that they're bringing up shows you that they're preparing for more people to become wise to this, more people to connect the dots. So they're going to deflect on this stuff because they want to make sure the people out there who are complete zombies hear stories like this and dismiss it. Instead of going, really? I've never heard that before about aliens, demons. Let me research it. They have seeds planted now where they could just deflect because this whole story tells you, oh, UFOs came from hell. Think about psychologically how people hear that. They just roll their eyes. They're like, oh, these people are crazy. Christians are crazy. Oh, Christians pushing this on us now, pushing that on us now, right? Instead of realizing, hey, maybe you should research this. And Aleister Crowley, they'll never bring that up, right? The article in the story talks about, oh, some of these Christians in the Pentagon think that aliens might be demons with no basis, not bringing up, oh, well, Aleister Crowley's teachings, all the stuff that we see with Crowley and how they worship, where the actual depiction of the gray comes from. That's really the easiest way to wake people up, in my opinion, to all this deception with aliens and demons, is just take your mind and go, okay, how come every single one of these movies, if somebody was just like, hey, looking up at the sky, right? And they were like, I wonder if there could be like life out there, other things out there, people maybe out there, right? Oh, okay, I'm going to make a movie on it, right? Say that happened in like the 1930s. Okay, fine. Maybe we could all believe, okay, some guy had some crazy idea. Okay, first of all, then you look at how there's a trillion movies about this over and over and over. Every month a new movie comes out with the same notion. And we've seen how it shifted from being afraid of these things to loving these things to accepting these things. Oh, aliens are nicer than people. Remember that video I did recently with Ben Kingsley? I'll put that back up on my other channel, Uprising Revival, if you didn't see it. Constantly telling, oh, they're better people. Oh, they're nicer than humans. They're better, right? And then the depiction of the gray. Where did it come from? One guy made a movie and he was like, oh, or wrote a book or whatever it was. Just think of the first alien thing that was ever put out. Think about it as if it was organic. Okay, so this guy came up with this notion that it looked like this. So why did every other movie, every other writer, every other person who depicts aliens use the same one? Why do they always look like gray? Why doesn't it look like a giant turd emoji? Why does it have to look like that? Huh? Because they're indoctrinating you. They're preparing you. Nobody even asked the question of where that came from. Somebody just made a sketch and then it just gained legs and everybody just uses it now. It's the basic form of what an alien looks like. Because every person, if you told them what does an alien look like, they would say a gray. And they would never say, where did the drawing come from? Why is that what we think that it looks like? You see? It's just easy mind control that they've done on the masses. It all goes back to Aleister Crowley. I thank everyone for being here. I hope you're all doing well. Hope to see you on my other backup channel. If you haven't subbed yet, lots of videos that have been removed are going up over there temporarily. So make sure you sub and you watch those if you want more of my content. And remember, my videos are only staying up for 7 days, and then they're going to the website, Uprising Revival, where I have my exclusive content, uncensored content, where you can learn more just from the videos, but you can learn more as well from all the great people who are subbed to the website, who are posting in the forum, who are actively sharing real news and real information. So thanks everybody who's over there. I hope to see more of you over there. God bless all of you as always and your families.